podcast where we believe that life is better when it is lived on purpose. My name is Molly Brunk, and I'm joined with lead pastor of Be Hope Church, Brad Thompson, and Janelle Thompson is in the house again today. If you missed the last episode, go back and listen to it before this one. It's not really in sequential order, but you should listen to it anyway. But we are going to ask Janelle some questions about being a parent and her journey of parenthood and all of the fun things about being a parent. I mean, you're also a parent, but we're going to ask Janelle most of the questions.
I cannot take any credit for my kids.
That's not true.
The Thompson boys, they have two boys. They are 13 and 14, and they are very sweet boys. And I think as someone who wants to be a parent in the future, like I would have all of the questions of, okay, how did you do that? How did you get to this point where you actually enjoy spending time with your teenage boys? So, but we have a fumble moment. So, Brad, do you want to share or Janelle?
Go for
I
it.
do. We were talking about, Matt's like, hey, tell us a funny story about your kids growing up. Parent fumble moment. I don't know if this is a parent fumble moment as much as it is a neighbor fumble moment. But my youngest, Miles, he was not that old. I don't know.
5? He was 5.
5, 6. I don't know what it was. He somehow on the bus discovered the F word. Did not know what it meant, but he went around using it. And I love these moments with our kids because they're great opportunities to have conversations. Not a moment to yell or scream. Just say, hey, this is not the best way to express ourselves. Like God has given us words that we can use to better express ourselves. And so we talk about the meaning of the word, why it's not appropriate. And the next day, he comes in from playing and his older brother just flat out said, Miles was still using the F word. And so at dinner, I said, my friend, every time you use that word, I'm going to take $1 out of your piggy bank.
How many dollars did you end up taking out?
I took out $75.
He said, in one day?
In one day. And here's the favorite part is it was kind of my way of getting money back that I owed him. It doesn't make sense when I say it, but we never carry cash, and this kid is loaded with cash. Like he's going to own a business someday. He's always got money. And so if we go somewhere, we have to take cash out of their piggy banks and we put in IOUs. I had like $75 in IOUs. And so I don't even know if it was 75 words, but it was my way of not having to pay him $75.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Miles.
Bad parenting moment.
Is like, if he listens to it, is he going to find out that you probably like stole some money from him in that moment?
He wouldn't care. He's too sweet.
That's fair. That's fair.
He'd like, sometimes they come down with money and like, I know it's expensive to park at the games, Dad. Here's $25.
So true.
That is hilarious.
They do. They come
Very
down
generous.
with money. We're like, hey, we're going somewhere. It's okay. I'll pay for my dinner. No, you have plenty of times you can pay for your own dinner.
Oh my gosh. How did they get to that point where, like with money especially?
They're pretty generous. I don't know how we got that way.
I don't either, but it's fun.
I'll take it.
Yeah, no, literally. One thing that not one thing, but like you have been a parent for 15 years now and stuff. And so what was that journey like of having newborn babies? Because they're pretty close in age.
They are 13 months, 14 months.
That's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, I think it was interesting because I was teaching first grade at the time. And I thought, it's going to be such a natural transition going from first grade kids to like little kids. And it was not a natural transition for me. It was very difficult. I ended up having postpartum depression with Carter and then with Miles. And so that was kind of a huge shock, I think, to me, and a huge shock
But let me give context, because we went from having 2 jobs, no kids, making 6 figures, to 1 job in ministry on WIC, no money. With 2 kids, living in a trailer for how long? Too long. And then it was a lot of life change. It wasn't just having babies. It was like career changes. It was moving. It was new jobs.
Yes.
And kids.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it was a lot more difficult than what I anticipated it to be.
But it was... This is our conversation about purpose, right? We said this podcast is about purpose. Is like, I remember in that year, I knew something was off, but it was like a year of walking on eggshells. And I wasn't trying to be like conflict avoidant, but it was just, I felt like in that season, the best thing I could do was just listen, not say a word. And literally for a year did not speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And I think through that process, I had to learn, I knew something wasn't right, but I had to do something for myself to feel better and to feel more myself. And so I went to therapy, which was what I needed, went on medication for a period of time. You know, we create these babies and we think, oh, my body should be like back and my hormones and emotions should be normal. But really, it takes months for you to feel you're like yourself again. And so taking those steps to be like, I need to be the best version of myself for my kids, for my husband, for this season of our life. And I'm so glad that I went ahead and made those steps because I not only learned tools to help myself and my family, but I was emotionally healthy to be able to take care of those times when you are about to lose your mind with screaming babies and decisions and all the things, because that's difficult in itself.
Yeah.
I think this is really important because I think sometimes we downplay the mental game. And, you know, I'm not like diming any generation out, but sometimes it's like you talk about therapy or you talk about getting help and it's like people roll their eyes like, oh my gosh, like you're such a soft generation. And I think what I've witnessed in people's lives, and I think like the beauty of what she's sharing is that she had to do her work. She had to get help. She had to get mentally healthy in order for her to live on purpose.
Right.
And I think what happens so many times, not just with parents, but with anybody, if you're downplaying the mental game, I've seen this, it becomes the spiral of people's lives where mentally you struggle, physically it takes a toll on your body. There's not anything wrong with your body, but you're sleeping, you're constantly tired, you're not motivated, you're not getting out, you're not connected with people, you isolate. Like it is this cyclical process that then leads to people leading years, and I mean years of their lives where they're not just apathetic, but they have completely missed everything that is in front of them. And I think the beauty of that season was as hard as it was, and as much as like you probably didn't want to go or to be on medication for a season, it was like that actually got you to the place where you became the parent you needed to be.
Right.
And I think that's some of why our kids are the way they are now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then you stayed home with them until they started school. And so how was that transition of getting to a place where you're like, okay, I am feeling myself, I'm feeling healthy, but now I'm at home with them for many hours a day. How was that experience?
Yes. I can remember one of them, I forget which one, was a newborn and him just crying and crying and crying. And I remember my mom saying, it'll pass. And I take that and it's like, yes, the bad moments will pass, but the good moments will also pass. And so there's that dichotomy of like this, I can get through this season. And also like, I need to hold on to those sweet moments. And so kind of staying at home was that way. Some moments were like, oh my goodness, is this day ever going to end? But also holding on to those sweet moments. And I think one thing staying at home helped me do was to see the world through the eyes of wonder. When I think about kids, you think about all the things that they see for the first time and that they're exploring and they want to touch everything and do everything. And just that wonder that they have, for me, that was a total joy. And I think that's why I love teaching, is just seeing them explore and soak in all the things that they can. And so being at home, that was probably my biggest joy with that.
That's fair. You weren't there, so you can't answer the questions. You were working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where was that? In Kansas?
Yeah.
Kansas.
Yeah, and I think that was always the tension. And I think many parents feel this, like, especially if you stay at home, it's like, she would say, love, you go to work and you check off things, you get things done. You have a sense of accomplishment. I am here all day with these kids who are needy, always wanting more, never say thank you. And at the end of the day, what do I have to show for it? And I think, and I really think that so many times in life we have that sense, like what am I actually doing that's making a difference?
Yeah.
Right. But you look 10 years later, it's like, it was so worth it.
It was worth it.
And I think there are times we are doing things in our life that we're like, what's the point of this? There's no accomplishment. There's no reward. There's, it's like what you say. This is another message I'm going to use. It's like,
really, I write his messages.
Yeah, that's what I'm gathering.
First this, then that. Like we were with our nieces the other day. It was so much fun. And my niece, she's so beautiful. She was just crushing a cookie. And my brother was like, he's like, no, you can't eat the cookie yet. Like, stop eating the cookie. I'm like, that's a normal thing to say. That's what I would say. And Janelle, who's miseducation, was like, no, like first this, then that. First you have to eat this, and then you can get that. And of course she did. And I'm like, everybody needs an education degree, right? But it's like, sometimes in life we have to do these things first. First this. It doesn't feel like I'm accomplishing anything. But then that, you see the reward 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about parenting, but I think it applies to anything in life. Like sometimes I think we just want the whole shebang at once, and we don't want to do the first this.
Well, in parenting, it's those moments that you don't want to do, that you do over and over consistently that create the outcome you want. So like, I don't want to, I said we're going to do this and you didn't listen. And so now there's a consequence, right? And it's like, I don't want to do that, but in order for them to learn, this has to happen. So it's doing those things consistently that maybe you don't want to do, but it gives you the outcome you want. Not fun.
Yeah.
It reminded me of one time Miles, he's a great child.
He's so great.
When he was really little, we were driving down the road. I wasn't with them, but they were driving down the road and he took off his seatbelt. And
it's like the little, the bucket seat thing. And so I pulled over in a store parking lot and I said, buddy, we're going to sit here until you put your buckle back on. Because I'm like, I do not want to fight this fight every single time. And so we sat there. He was screaming for 45 minutes, I think. And then finally he buckled it because he's able to do it.
I love that.
He buckled it and I'm like, thanks, we can go now. But that never happened again because I was willing to fight that fight right there.
First this.
But that's hard.
Then that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I think most parents, if it were me, I'd be like, I'm grooving, we're going. But the patience to just wait it out and saying like that's power. That's good stuff.
Yeah. And I think now today too, people often don't necessarily know that reassurance of like their parenting choices because there's so many choices on how to parent. And so there's gentle parenting or this kind of parent and like all of these different approaches to it. And so I think that's where you get lost sometimes because you're making those decisions and you don't know if that's the right decision. Like you don't know if that's the best decision for your kid. And so I can see how that is hard to lose your sense of like identity in that if you always feel like you're just messing up or just getting by.
Well, and I think the other half of it is sometimes emotionally unhealthy people parent out of a desire for love. I've seen so many parents, they have kids because they want to be loved. And we have always taken the approach that we are not parenting out of friendship, but we are parenting for impact.
Yeah. Like
when I think about the future, like the way we get there with our kids of making an impact in the world isn't by being their friend. Your dad always said to me, in youth, don't be their friend. They have enough friends.
Right.
They want responsibility. They want accountability. They want somebody to lead them. And sometimes that's hard. But I remember that like we've always parented from a place of not your friend, but we want impact. We'll love you. We support you, but we'll do the hard things. Like sitting for 45 minutes, waiting for you to get it together.
Sure.
And I think that has been helpful for us.
Yeah. So how did that shift when you started working full-time again? How did you feel that parenting, not purpose, because your purpose is always the same, but did you struggle with that, with seeing your kids less or?
I think for me, there's always this desire to teach. And so even when I was home, I would do activities with the boys and teach them. So that was always an underlying thing, but to get outside of our home and to have relationships with other adults, that was really good for me. So, and the boys were at the stage, I mean, one of our goals has always been for them to be independent, mighty men of God, we say. And so they were at the point where they could be independent, and we don't need to hover over them, and they can go out and make their own mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And so I think it was a good timing for me to go back to work to kind of give them some independence, to give them that freedom to live in the world and to do what they needed to do.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's kind of
I
a
love, by the way,
natural.
I'm going to say this, and I love our education system here in Beaver Creek. Like, it's absolutely amazing. I get 500 emails every day from the school system, and I love the communication. But we were talking about this the other day. Like, we're at a place with our kids where it's like, I don't need to check your grades. Like, that's your responsibility. Like, or you get all these things that you have to sign first, week of school, making sure that I've read the syllabus and I've read all the projects and making sure that I agree to it. And it's like, the boys know I'm just going to sign it. No offense to teachers. I just don't care because it's their responsibility. Like, if they miss projects, if they don't study, and that's another approach we've taken. It's just like, this is your responsibility. If I do it for you, you'll never learn. And so, wrong or right, like, we don't hover in our kids' business, and they still study. They get great grades. Like, we never ask them to do their homework. It's done.
Well, and you talk about learning, like, in order for kids to learn, they have to make mistakes. I read a book every year to my students called Beautiful Oops, and it's a children's book, and it's my favorite because it talks about we make these mistakes, and then you turn the page, and they create something beautiful out of the torn piece of paper or the hole in the paper. And so when I read this to my students, I say it's okay to make mistakes, but we got to make something beautiful out of it, which would be learning from our mistakes. Or, you spill water and your friend comes and helps you clean it up. You can express gratitude to your friend that's making something oops into something beautiful. And so I think parents sometimes are scared to allow their kids to have those oops moments because I think sometimes we think it's a reflection of us in our children, but allowing them to have that oops moment also allows them to learn how to make something beautiful out of it. And I think that's a skill, that's a gift. So that's something that we've tried to incorporate into our boys as well, that it's okay to mess up, but what are you going to do with that?
Yeah. Is that harder the older that they get?
I would say yes, simply because those oops have
there's more at stake.
There's more weight, more at stake. It's
sure.
a heavier weight. But at the same time, it's like the boys, it's like, you can tell us anything. We're going to get through it. We're going to make it work. And I'm sure there's lots of oops to come.
But one of your guys' things that you, I think, talk about frequently is that you like to be present with your boys and just with your family. And so is that the thing that you feel like has shifted their trust in you, is the fact that, like, they know that you will always give them your undivided attention when they need it? Or how do you feel like that has shifted your family, like just being able to be present with them?
That's a good question. I think we define presence by, like, always being with each other. And I think one of the things you do so well is you create these intentional moments with our kids of being present, but it's not hours on end. It's these small minutes of before bedtime where you say, you did this the other night with CJ, like, how's your heart, man? How's your heart tonight? Like, it took 1 minute to ask that question. We've been very open with our kids about stages that they're going through. So I've had awkward conversations with my sons about things they face and things they're going through now. But what we love is, like, that was a moment of being present, of just, this is what you're going to be facing. This is what to expect. You always have our ear to talk with us. And I think really that comes from, you talk about the wisdom of your parents. Never really ever felt like with your parents, they were top down telling us what to do. So many times I would ask Janelle, what'd your mom and dad say about this situation? And she would say, they just listened. And I'm seeking advice, and, like, they just listened. And I think that's what, one thing you've done so well. We talk about being present. Like, it's not just the amount of time. It's even these small moments of just, hey, how's your heart? I'm here to help.
And when someone is present with you. And so it's very difficult to be present with somebody. And so I think making it a moment to be intentionally present with our children, if we want them to tell us the big things, we have to be there in the little moments. And so I try to be there will be times where I'm scrolling on my phone and I'm like, I am not being present with Carter right now or whatever. And so really in my mind thinking, okay, if I want to be present, I'm going to have to practice this, put down the phone, which is really difficult, I know. But I think when when the boys were younger, it was, I really, really want to be present. And I want them to know that they can come to me and I care about, because really being present and intentional is caring about somebody.
That's right.
Mhm.
And so giving them that eye-to-eye contact and letting them know, I value you enough to put my phone down. I value you enough to not look away from you. So those types of things, I think just tiny, tiny things, but they make a world of a difference.
And I'll speak for me. I am not the perfecter of presence. Like, I don't have social media, but like church, the thought of church is my social media. And so there's so many times where I'm at home, but I am off in La La Land thinking about where are we going next? What are we doing? How am I solving this problem? And she will go, sometimes she'll just do this. I'll be driving down the road and she'll like, are you there?
Come back to us.
And it's so helpful to me to say, like, sometimes I don't even think we are aware that we're not present.
Sure.
We're just not aware of it. And so as a partner, just having somebody to say, I love you. I need you here is so helpful to me.
Yeah. No, that's so good. Do you have any other things that you wanted to talk about on parenting or?
No, we're out of time. We just have to have her back again. We can talk about other things. By the way, send your questions. If you want wisdom, you want help, maybe we should just start like our own radio station and they can call you. I can leave.
That's fair. We can just all learn from Janelle.
Oh, yeah.
I'm here for it. I learn from Janelle all the time. So
it's so good. I learned too.
I know. It's good. We're in the same boat. But we're so grateful that you took time out of your day to listen or watch, and make sure that you subscribe and share this episode with everyone in your sphere of influence. And we will see you back here on the next episode.